welcome to This Week in the World of Wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And I gotta say, another really fun episode of Lucha Underground tonight. We got everything from debuts to the continuation of the Trios Championship Tournament. And I gotta say, the groundwork that was laid for next week, oh my goodness, it was amazing. I'll take my word for it, though. I'd love to know, my cohort and commentary here, what'd you think of Lucha Underground tonight?
Yeah, this was a really good show, and you know what? Even though last week I was kind of thinking maybe possibly Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might take the crown this week, it didn't happen, man. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a little bit of a letdown this week. It was still a good show, but dude, Lucha Underground just continuously one-ups themselves. And tonight's episode felt so much shorter than it really was, and that speaks volume to how much they pack into an hour.
I mean, I believe I said it last week, and if I didn't, I'll say it here. I mean, to me, Lucha Underground is an experience, and it's one that always feels so ephemeral, because you wait out the week, it becomes Wednesday, and then before you know it, though, it's over, and you're already waiting for the next Wednesday after that. And, you know, I believe this was the halfway point. This was episode 13, wasn't it, tonight, of the season?
12.
Oh, this was episode 12. So next week, well, that's even more appropriate given what we have next week, will be the halfway point of the season. But yeah, episode 12 really packed a punch tonight. But let's get right into it. Well, actually, no, I keep forgetting, man. We don't do Eats of the Night on Lucha Underground. So I'll forego that segment. Let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And partner, how do we open this baby up?
Yeah, we open this baby up with a segment in Dario Cueto's office where he tells Cage, Johnny Mundo, and Taya that they're going to be a trios team.
Yeah, he does. And his reasoning, very Cueto-esque. You know, I put Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Angelico together as Team Havoc, and they're now the trios champions. So Cueto's thinking, oh, well, I did it with these parts that didn't like each other. Let me do it with these parts that don't like each other now. Let me see if I can recapture that magic, recapture that lightning in a bottle, if you will.
But
Mundo
doesn't strike twice in the same spot. So
well,
you need to move the bottle, Cueto. Jesus.
Yeah, thank you. Be sure to tweet that to him, too, so that he really knows it, because I gave him an earful, too, before we got on here.
I'm going to now.
Because, yeah, this was all your fault, Cueto. This was all your fault, and I'm a bit salty about it, but I'm going to be the professional that I am, unlike you, and I'm just going to do my business. So, Mundo does catch on. They both protest. I mean, Cage even comes out with the idea, well, why not just give me and Mundo a match? Cueto doesn't listen to anybody else. They just says, no, I like my idea better. The best part of this cinematic to me, besides the announcement, that this was going to be the team to face El Dragon, Azteca Jr., Rey Mysterio, and Prince Puma, so you already knew it was going to be an amazing main event, was the brief interaction that Taya and Cueto had. And Cueto's just all like, oh, we finally have the pleasure of meeting. And he sticks his hand out. And Taya's more or less like, yeah, I know who you are. It just gives him this look like you just got totally rebuked, dude. Yeah. So, great stuff there. I had fun with this cinematic. Great tone to start the show because, again, it keeps the emphasis on the Trios Championship Tournament. And I just really enjoyed this.
Yeah, this was... again, I think the word you used that I want to kind of reiterate is tone. This did a great job with maintaining a consistent tone for the Trios tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, do we want to move on already? Because since this was just kind of a simple backstage thing.
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. Up next was our first match of the night: Killshot versus Argenis. Killshot is wearing the new mask that we saw him in last week in that awesome sort of like vignette interview kind of thing that showed his backstory. I love that they gave him a new mask too, because the old one felt far too similar to King Cuerno's, and now he's getting his own identity, and I really appreciate that.
Oh my god, Killshot getting a very definitive character for us to, get accustomed to and grow with and journey with is going to breathe a life into his career that I don't even know if he's really grasping yet, because I think this rocket's only going to go up. I even like, too, when he came out, I just want to make a small point in addition to yours about the mask, he came out with a dog tag to reflect that military background. So I really like that. That was part of his entrance, too. And, him and Argenis have a great opening match. I think it's an opening match like this that if you were new to Lucha Underground, first of all, welcome to the table. What took you so long to get here? But I think it really kind of shows you what you're in store for with competitors like these. And they don't even, in my mind, scratch the surface. And I think they're both wonderful. So great exchange between these two. Argenis gets some good high flying, and Killshot, though, is on point with his kicks. Yeah. And the finish, man. It was kind of a mixture of, inspired by Kenny Omega a little bit and Finn Balor a little bit. Double Stomp doesn't put it away. He grabs Argenis, and he does. I mean, how would you describe it, Ashton? Because I know you seem to punctuate it quite nicely on live reactions.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. For those of you familiar with Kenny Omega, and I guess for those of you who aren't, I'll explain it. His move that he used to use as his finisher was called Kreutz Wrath, and he had the guy up in the electric chair, and then he dropped them forward, caught them basically with their butt right pressed up against his chest, and he had his arms wrapped around them, and then fell backwards into a German like that.
Right.
So that was Kreutz Wrath, and that was his finisher for a while. And since he got to New Japan, he's been using the One-Winged Angel, which is basically an electric chair where he reaches one arm up, grabs them by the head, and then pulls them down into basically a pile driver.
Right.
And then, basically, Killshot combined those two moves where he dropped the guy down from the electric chair first into the Kreutz Wrath position, but then he reached up with his one arm and did the pile driver.
I think it's a sick-looking move for Killshot.
It's awesome looking.
Yeah, and I will say, too, I think this is another smart move. So in one match, and this is why I love Lucha Underground, we get a revamped look for Killshot, a somewhat different entrance, because, again, we have the addition of the dog tag now to reflect the military background, and now a new finisher just on top of the double stomp. So already you can tell, they raised the old ground to Killshot, again, like you said, those King Cuerno comparisons and everything else, and they've really begun building something organic, different, another character that they can call a Lucha Underground original.
Yep.
And I think it has great promise. I even said in live reactions, which I can't wait to see the comments on that, because that was a really fun night tonight. But then I would almost put him in Son of Havoc category. I mean, maybe I'm doing it a bit too soon, but I definitely see Killshot getting in that world title territory. Not necessarily winning the gold, but he'll be in that conversation before long.
I think I would put him in a similar category to Son of Havoc, but, it's one of those things where I think Son of Havoc has a much higher upside.
I would agree. I think he's just got that charisma that I don't really know if I would say Killshot has it at that level yet, but I still love the story they're doing with him. Yeah. And I think if you give that time, it'll get legs that could travel for miles. And, again, the sky, I think, is the limit. But I would agree. If I had to pick, I would say that Son of Havoc, I think, has a bit more of an upside. But that's not a disservice to Killshot at all, because I'm telling you, there's a real quality performer here. I know you know that. I know a lot of people listening already know that. And I think the best is yet to come for this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now, we already talked about the finish to that match. But after the match, we had another backstage segment. This time, though, it was outside of Cueto's office. We know from last week that Black Lotus has been guarding the door, and El Dragon Azteca Jr. approached her and confronted her about what's going down between her and Cueto. And now this was really curious to me, because she said she only aligned with him because she was trapped in a cell and she would have died if she didn't. She said the monster killed El Dragon Azteca. And yeah, so I don't know, man. You want to believe that she really does want to be on El Dragon Azteca Jr.'s side, and that she was just telling him that so that he wouldn't kill her on the spot. But I also have to kind of feel like she's fully turned. She's on Cueto's side, and she was just telling him that again so that he wouldn't kill her, but also to mislead him.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. There's a part of me that really believes the Black Lotus is just kind of looking out for herself in a way. Like, I've got to do what I can to survive. I'm still not in the best position. If I was to turn on this guy now, I've already seen what that monster can do. I don't want to be on that hit list. But I think there is another part that may be sympathetic or, contrite, remorseful, whatever word you want to use, about what she did to the original El Dragon Azteca. And I don't think these issues between Junior and Black Lotus are over by a long shot, because I'd say maybe even before we get to Ultima Lucha, I don't know if this is all going to happen within the context of Season 2, but El Dragon Azteca Jr. may learn the truth about Black Lotus and her role in the demise of their mentor. And I would put money on it happening this season, but who knows? I mean, maybe he'll be kept in the dark for a lot longer. You never know with Lucha Underground what they're going to do with their narratives. But, my money says, yeah, he's going to piece it together. And wouldn't it be something if these two had a match at Ultima Lucha? Because I have to believe Black Lotus is going to compete eventually. And it'd be really something if El Dragon Azteca Jr. was her first opponent, because we already know what he can do, and he's amazing. So it would really be something.
Yeah, it was. This is such an interesting story, though, because you really are left to wonder whose side Black Lotus is really on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think her motivations, her alignments, just, all that stuff is still a little bit up in the air. I mean, clearly she's being deceitful to El Dragon Azteca Jr., but it's not so clear how deceitful she's being with Dario Cueto. Because right now he is, quote-unquote, protecting her. And the only protection he's really offering is, I haven't been in the mood to feed you to this monster yet that we call Matanza.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Could she make a deviation at some point and be like, no, you know what? The original Dragon Azteca, he was good to me. He wanted to help me. I was too blinded by my own anger to see it, but I see it now. And maybe she'll even try and take down Matanza, because let's not forget, I mean, it's been a long time, but I would like to remind everybody, in case anybody's forgotten, because I feel like even at my points, I've forgotten, because I've been so used to her being kind of like the muscle for Dario Cueto's office, because we all know the real muscle in the end's Matanza. But Black Lotus, she came in as an Avenger type with a vendetta. Her parents were killed. Now, Cueto blamed El Dragon Azteca, the original. It seemingly looks like that Black Lotus accepted that explanation, but I wonder if doubts are going to begin to spring into her mind and she goes back on that warpath. Because then I think Cueto and Matanza may have a problem. If she adds it up and she's like, wait a minute, the original Dragon Azteca, he had nothing to do with the death of my parents, but Cueto and Matanza did. I mean, she may still continue to be in their service, but only with that ill intention of, as soon as you guys are vulnerable, I'm killing you. And who knows? Because I would love to be in the mind of Black Lotus, because she may have those doubts even now. We don't know what she's thinking. But I have forgotten, the only reason she began this journey was because her parents were murdered, and she wanted to settle a score. So the question I would have for Black Lotus isn't necessarily, where are your loyalties, this and that. Would be more, point blank, is your score settled? Have you tied away, that your parents were murdered? Have you made peace with that? Because if it's no, then clearly there's a lot more going on than what's shown, on the surface. So Good stuff, though.
We might be getting the double backstab. She's a double agent.
Gonna be so many turns I won't even be able to keep my head straight, but yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Vince Russo would love this shit with all the swerves.
I know, right? I hate to even think how he's reacting to it all right now. Oh god, she swerved. Oh no, he swerved. Oh god, so much at once.
I mean, he is a big fan of Lucha Underground. I know that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I think he'd love a story being told like this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we already had a big discourse the week prior about El Dragon Azteca Jr. What I saw in him being almost a symbol of this young guy, but he's being molded by the wrong forces because he's so angry, and he always seems to come back to revenge as his thing. But Ray's trying to be that positive influence, so we don't know if El Dragon. It would be funny if we do, you talk about Black Lotus being this double agent, but it would really be funny, and we joke about these swerves, if they both kind of did one. Maybe Black Lotus would be the one that would quote unquote find the light, again, be contrite, be remorseful, and it's El Dragon Azteca Jr. that
gets corrupted.
That gets corrupted and indulges in the darkness. That'd be very interesting.
Oh man, I don't know how much sense it would make, but knowing Lucha Underground, they'd find a way to make it make sense.
Yeah, they hear that and they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll justify it. Yeah. So there you go.
All right, up next, we were back in Cueto's office, and he's showing Daga, a new recruit to the temple, the 7 Gift of the Gods ancient Aztec medallions, He explained to them that he would be competing for one of the medallions in his debut match tonight against a cold-hearted, vicious man, Texano.
Yeah, interesting attributes, attributed to Texano there. Wouldn't necessarily, those wouldn't be the words that come to my mind, cold-hearted and ruthless, because he is, I think, still in the midst of a technical run. But fair enough. And Daga, a complete...
I think it's just kind of trying to get the badassiness over,
Yeah, it's like, you're facing this real badass. But Daga, on the other hand, complete mystery to us both, in this segment, because normally you're the more educated guy in the group. I'm just like, oh, what's all this stuff? And it's like, well, there's a history. Oh, but we're getting it right now, so I don't need to. And you love doing the homework. But yeah, this guy was a question mark to both of us. I didn't really know anything that he's done prior. But already, I mean, Cueto must see value in him because, to your point, Ashton, gets put in an Aztec Medallion matchup with Texano. So first match out, I mean, big opportunity here.
And that was what happened next, actually, was that match.
Yeah, now, this is where things get interesting.
Oh, boy.
Because, well, yeah, see, Ashton's already praised for it. But hey, look, I'm not gonna ride on you or do any of that stuff because, look, I like the debut, but I'm not necessarily in love with the guy yet, even though I think I might become that way. You, though, had quite a different opinion of Daga, so the floor is yours.
It's just that I'm apprehensive more than anything. I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. He's clearly very talented. I just struggled to get into this match. And clearly, I don't necessarily think that it was entirely on Texano, because even you and I both agree, this was still probably Texano's best match in Lucha Underground ever.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Oh, my goodness. And Ashton rightly pointed out to me, because I've never really been big on Texano, if I'm being honest. So now it's my turn to say, oh boy, because I know what a big deal the guy was in AAA, and had such a ridiculous reign with the world title and all that stuff before Del Rio ended it, because he just ruins everything.
He's champion again now, though.
Wait, what was that?
Texano is champion again now.
Oh, I did not know that. See,
yeah,
well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure they had a big tournament to crown the replacement mega champion when Del Rio left for America, and yeah, I'm pretty sure Texano won it back.
Oh, well, congratulations to him. So, there was that. But, I mean,
I'll look it up while you're talking just to make sure.
Yeah, I've never really been able to get into Texano, but, I mean, Ashton, again, rightly pointed out, well, who has he really worked with? Just Chavo and, Davari before that. So he hasn't really been able to, and, Patron before that. And Patron, even though I do feel like some of his best work was in Lucha Underground, I know he's kind of an acquired taste for some, meh to others, and oh my god, I love him, so a great fluctuation of opinions.
And yeah, it is Texano. He is the mega champion again.
But
obviously, since he just won it last month, they don't know about him being mega champion on these tapings.
Right.
These tapings, I'm pretty sure every single one of these tapings happened before Texano won the mega championship again.
Right.
So they're not going to mention it.
No, they're not. And, I mean, who knows? Already, dude, Ultima Lucha 2 is looking nicer to Texano than the first one, because, I mean, he ultimately did win this match, which was a fun back-and-forth match.
Again, though, John, you're assuming that the 7-way is going to happen at Ultima Lucha 2. I think there's still a chance that it'll happen sooner than that.
Maybe. I mean, you've been so adamant about that I almost want you to be right, simply because you've been just, so convinced. Like, no, it's happening sooner. Damn it!
I've done such a good job of avoiding spoilers too. Like, I'm tempted to just look and be like, aha, they did do more than one, or oh well, yeah, I guess I was going out on a limb there. But no, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look at spoilers. It's not happening. No.
Yeah, and please no spoilers in the comments, because I treat Lucha Underground spoilers like, well, if a whole town was being quarantined because of a life-threatening virus. I mean, I'm just wearing face mask and everything. I'm all decked out. So
same thing.
I mean, yeah, we don't know exactly where it's all gonna end up, but I mean, as far as the match goes, I had fun with it. I know, I mean, the jury's still out for you on Daga, which is perfectly acceptable. I mean, plurality is the slice of life. I'm very curious what the opinions in our comments were about his debut. I took a shine to the guy immediately. And again, though, maybe I'll even become more of a Texano fan. Now that he's able to work with people that aren't Davari and Chavo, which no disrespect to them, but I mean, they are older and they are the types of workers that they are. Maybe I'll even be like, wow, Texano is really good. Because I'll be honest, I do like his sit-out powerbomb, and I maybe should credit Daga slightly for that, for the sell job, but it looked especially impactful tonight. Like, damn, he put that one away. So, yeah, really good matchup. I think this now, we've been talking about tone with the whole trios tournament, this sets a nice tone for the beginning of gathering the medallions all over again. So Texano's the first one to claim one after, again, a 6 sit-out powerbomb. And, we'll see when Gift of the Gods occurs, whether it's Ultima Lucha 2 or on an episode of Lucha Underground, up in the air. But I'm interested to know who are the other 6 claimants of the remaining medallions going to be. You guys know who I want to see claim one, but we won't really discuss that seriously until something happens to say otherwise. So, anything else you want to say about this match?
Well, I mean, I feel like I have to kind of justify why I'm not super up and giddy and excited about Daga.
Right.
I think that a lot of it has to do with because at the beginning of the match, I felt like I heard Vampiro say that he works a shoot style, which got me immediately excited because I am a huge fan of Timothy Thatcher, who is also a pretty well-known independent wrestler who works a shoot style. So I'm thinking this match is going to be super scientific and technical, and there's just going to be psychology out the ass, and it's going to actually feel like he's trying to win the match the whole time. And then we were greeted immediately with about 2 minutes of a really heavily rehearsed flippy shit sequence. And I love good flippy shit sequences, but this one felt sloppy to me. So I'm not trying to write Daga off at all. First of all, it was the jolt to my system going from, oh, this is going to be a slow-paced technical masterpiece to, oh, they're doing flippy shit. This is pretty much everything we always see in Lucha Underground. And that, and also the fact that the flippy sequence that we did see at the beginning of the match felt sloppy to me.
Which, again, fair points all around. In fact, I mean, I do think it'd be great if Lucha Underground got some performers that, worked a more scientific or technical,
that's my
style.
thing, too, is that, like, I got so excited when he broke out the ankle lock because it was a beautiful ankle lock.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people might even get on my case for this, but I think that just in this one match, Daga had a more effective looking ankle lock than Kurt Angle ever had.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, certainly Jack's right, because I always thought his ankle lock was shit. Kurt Angle, though, I think you do have a debate there, but hey,
well,
I mean,
okay,
again,
Kurt Angle was always, he always had this issue where his ankle locks looked like he was twisting the ankle, which isn't how ankle locks are supposed to work.
Right, okay. Well,
Whereas, yeah, and I think, honestly, before he left wrestling and went back to MMA, Ken Shamrock had that exact same problem, whereas Daga was clearly applying what looked like an actual ankle lock where you push the toes up to the sky rather than to the side.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I would like to see more of that from Daga. It'd be nice if it would be kind of a hybridization of maybe Lucha and more technically based stuff like that ankle lock.
And like I said, I'm still obviously going to be open to it. I'm not saying, oh, Daga sucks, I never want to see him wrestle again or anything unreasonable like that. I'm just saying I want to see more. I'm curious, but I'm not in love yet.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, look, if anybody is familiar with us on our NXT reviews, I mean, we've had that mindset so many times about so many different acts.
Yeah.
So,
and if anyone has earned our trust more than NXT, it's Lucha Underground.
Exactly. So, but I will say though, I mean, just as an aside, again, it would be cool if we got more, literal, technical wrestlers. I don't want to say technicals because I know that means face, in Lucha Libre, but yeah, more technically sound scientific wrestlers. I mean, that would be cool because I mean, I love that shit, and you love that shit as far as like how Timothy Thatcher and others.
I was just gonna say, dude, if Timothy Thatcher ever shows up in Lucha Underground, I might need a new pair of pants.
And you know what? That's what I love to hear. So with that sentiment, you want to move on?
I do want to move on. Let's move on to our next segment, Mil Muertes, at some kind of shrine or throne or ritual or something. Bunch of candles spread around. He's down on his knees at some kind of a table with candles on it. Catrina approaches and tells him that the Disciples of Death have been invited to compete in the Trios tournament and are begging his forgiveness. So he gets up, turns around, says, rise, and they do, and then Catrina tells them to leave and tells Mil that they wouldn't fail again, and that Matanza, which is apparently going to be Mil's opponent next week, is like nothing he'd ever seen before, and that he might be the only thing Mil's ever faced that could be as devastating as the earthquake that created him.
Yeah, don't adjust your speakers and or headsets, people. You heard that correctly. We are already getting Mil Muertes versus Matanza.
Dude, honestly, I really am excited for the match, but this feels like a match that has to have a non-finish so that we can get it again soon.
I mean, this to me, I mean, I even told you on live reactions and really in essence, everybody.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just wanted to bring this up. I was going to say something in live reactions about this, but I didn't want to end up getting the name wrong and look like a complete moron. But I was right in my brain. Wale was in the crowd, the rapper.
Oh, cool.
That's amazing.
Always nice to know who's in the temple, I'm telling you.
He's a wrestling fan overall. Like, he was at WrestleMania weekend. He
Right.
watches What Culture Wrestling, like all that stuff. He's a wrestling fan. But it's still awesome that he was at Lucha Underground. Frankly, I hope he tweets about it, or at the very least, just kind of mention something about it in passing, so that it just get Lucha Underground that rub,
Yeah, get your PR game up there. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. But what was
Now
I?
we can go back to what you were talking about.
Yes. Now I remember what I was going to say too. What's so crazy to me, I thought this was the Ultimate Lucha 2 main event on a lock. Like we talked about this match a lot, and I just felt like it screamed Ultimate Lucha 2. But now I'll be honest. I don't have a complete equation. I'm only going to give you half of it. I think Pentagon's main eventing Ultimate Lucha 2 this year. Like, that just is immediately where my brain goes to.
Well, it feels like it, and, I mean, here's the thing. At the beginning of the season, it's funny, because at the beginning of the season, Pentagon broke Mill's arm, and then a few weeks went by, and there wasn't really any more interaction between Pentagon and the champion. And Pentagon didn't really even do much so far this season. But then he had that match with Mill where he basically got destroyed alongside Prince Puma. But now we're actually getting to the point where he's away, and there are actually a surprising amount of people that are convinced, like, man, does Lucha Underground not realize what they have in Pentagon? I'm pretty sure they do. They're just playing you like a fiddle.
Yeah, anybody that can ask that question in sincerity, I don't want to denigrate them because this is me being sincere.
Well, honestly, the people that I've heard say that were, there was one podcast, and I'm not even going to give the name out, but there was one Lucha Underground review podcast that said it. But again, another one, I've actually heard Dave Meltzer say that. So
Oh
what?
My God, fucking Meltzer. Like, now I'm a little,
because he seems to enjoy the product, but everything he ever says about it on his show is negative.
well, he needs to.
Like, oh, Lucha Underground's going out of business. Oh, Lucha Underground's making horrible decisions. Oh, Lucha Underground needs to get a new deal. Oh, Lucha Underground's going blah, 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 blah. Shut up, Meltzer.
Yeah, nobody really cares about your opinion. And in fact, if you in front of me, I would probably punch you in the face.
I mean, I
I
kind of wish that I could agree with you there, but he's got a pretty massive subscriber base.
Well, let me qualify the statement. As far as Lucha Underground goes, no sensible person would care about your opinion.
Nobody that matters in the Lucha Underground pyramid or ladder or whatever you want to call it actually cares what Meltzer has to say.
Yeah, because they're too busy creating the best show on television.
Yeah.
Yeah, peon by comparison. I mean, no offense to subscribers, you like what you like. I mean, I certainly have tastes I know would offend a lot of people. But, I mean, seriously, nobody, as far as Lucha Underground goes, he couldn't be any more off base. And that's really what I should be saying here. Like, it's just off base. And as far as people that could hold, oh, well, they're just undervaluing Pentagon. It's all about that long con, people. Because I'm really starting to feel now he is going to main event the second Ultima Lucha.
He is going to come back stronger than ever.
And probably more over than ever on top of that. Because, let me tell you something. And
dude, that's the thing, too, is like, I feel like the biggest pop he's ever gotten was his surprise appearance at the end of episode 1.
And I do agree.
And imagine what'll happen if Matanza is in the ring and he shows up behind him.
Exactly. Like, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and they were already quite fond of Pentagon in the first place.
Yeah.
So when he reemerges to exact his revenge on Matanza and maybe even resume his business with Mil Muertes, because with these two on a collision course, and I'll say this too, you said earlier that you felt like this match had to end in a non-finish. I'm convinced Lucha Underground's going to give us a decisive winner. Because even if it's just by a hiccup or something, they're going to have a winner on one side of this thing, and I just don't know who you pick.
Dude, I don't think it's going to be by a hiccup either. Just knowing what they're going for right now, I could honestly see Matanza destroying Mil.
Destroying Mil. See, that's something, because... but then again, I really can't contend you that much. Like, I think Mil will put up more of a fight than anybody else.
Here's the thing, dude. Like, a few chair shots to the gut, and I think, like, a frog splash from Rey Mysterio were able to put Mill away at Aztec Warfare. He's clearly really, really strong and probably one of, if not the strongest fighter in the temple. But he's also, whether by death or undead or whatever you want to call it, he's still human.
That is true. Like, if you were to pull up Mil Muertes' attributes, he's almost like a character that doesn't have a lot allocated in defense. Because offensively, he's a freaking Mack truck. He comes at you.
Out of the 630, though, so...
I mean, he did kick out, but at the same time, though, like, he did get caught in that pinning combination by Phoenix, which makes sense because of their whole dichotomy.
If it's a scale of 1 to 10, his offense is a 10, his defense is an 8. But Matanza's offense is a 12, and his defense is a 13.
Exactly.
The problem with Mill is that he's working within a scale of 1 to 10. Matanza breaks the scale.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Even if you want to say, Mill's a 10 out of 10 in both categories, yeah, Matanza's still like a 12 or a 13. He's still, he's a god, people.
And here's another thing, too, I have to ask, since we're getting this match next week, I mean, obviously the Disciples of Death match is going to precede that.
Which I wonder who they're going to be facing.
I wonder who they're going to be facing as well. Because that's...
Maybe we'll get our animal theme team and it'll be Phoenix, Drago, and Bengala.
Ooh, maybe.
I brought that up so many times in the off-season.
I know you did.
How good does that feel to say, though? Off-season.
I know, because it's what human beings actually need.
The thing is, it's the worst for Lucha Underground, though, because it means that we don't get to watch them all year round.
Yeah, that is true. But it's funny.
The one company on the planet that we don't want to have an off season is the only one that does.
And yet they're so much better for it, though. So good. But to your point, though, I don't think it is going to be that team, but not because I don't love your imagination, because clearly I do. I just think, honestly, Phoenix might even play a role in this title match next week. Because, I mean, Catrina did save Phoenix, more or less, and I wonder if Phoenix's part in this whole thing isn't over. Ooh. So, I'm not saying he's going to get involved in the match, but...
I mean, he probably does technically have a rematch, don't you think? Oh, no, he had his rematch last week, never mind.
Yeah, and he lost. But here's the thing, though.
But he survived because of Mill.
Exactly, and here's the thing. If I were booking, which obviously the people that do book Lucha Underground are superior to me in every way, and I don't say that often, so again, take it and run with it, people. But I could see Matanza beating Mill, and then beating down Mill, trying to bring death to the dead, which we'll get to that a little bit later.
Oh, yeah.
And Phoenix makes the save. I could see him saving Mil Muertes next week.
I could see it. Yeah, I could see it.
So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. But regardless, I mean, this match is happening already.
It's just going to be so weird seeing Mill in that vulnerable position, which I legitimately do think is going to happen against Matanza.
Yeah, that's where it really seems appropriate. Because, I mean, look, I know Mil Muertes has looked vulnerable before this season, mainly at the hands of Pentagon, but those were mainly
wait, what?
Well, I mean, Pentagon breaking his arm and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then the chair shots.
I would say the most vulnerable that he's looked was against Phoenix when Phoenix ripped his mask off.
Yeah, that too. So throughout the season he's had moments of vulnerability, but I mean, this is just...
Matanza hasn't, that's for sure.
Yeah, Matanza hasn't yet. And see, that's the thing. I think because he hasn't, and we've already had that exposure to Mil Muertes, you almost have to go with Matanza in this case, I feel like. Because I think he's still new to a degree.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind Matanza's winning.
Yeah, I see Matanza going.
They're not going to put the title on Matanza to have him lose it, 4 or 5 weeks later.
Yeah, this is a long haul kind of title reign, I think.
I think that kind of booking makes sense for a guy like Phoenix because he's that scrappy underdog, and they really didn't even book it like he was better than Mill, just that he had Mill's number.
Exactly.
So it does make all the sense in the world that he would lose it very quickly after winning it to a different challenger other than Mill, but Mill just can't beat him.
Exactly. And
it's rock, paper, scissors, man.
Exactly, and here's the thing. If the Ultima Lucha 2 main event would be Pentagon versus Matanza, it's going to really be heavily contingent on what Pentagon brings to the table, because I could see Matanza leaving Ultima Lucha 2 still the Lucha Underground champion. That's just how legit he is right now. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting storyline-wise, like how they bulk up Pentagon, what he brings to the table to fight Matanza, because it is going to take a hell of a lot, man.
It really is. Oh, man.
All right, well, what came after this?
After this was our final match of the night. This is crazy. I feel like we barely talked about anything, but yeah. we have our main event. We had Johnny Mundo, Taya, and Cage taking on the team of El Dragon Azteca Jr., Rey Mysterio, and Prince Puma. Mundo and Taya were a team the entire time, and then Cage happened.
And that's pretty much the most perfect review of this matchup because that's precisely what happened. You know? I mean, Ty and Johnny Mundo working splendidly as a team because they're fabulous people, but Cage, being the hapless gorilla that he is, decided to come in.
That's like the third or fourth time you've referred to him as that exact same name.
Well, until it stops being true, I won't. And that's my response to that, because really all it is, I want to wrestle, give me the tag. And then he goes and he does
Oh, yeah, that's another thing, too. Back in the backstage segment in Cueto's office, he goes, because I'm not a man. And then Cueto even stopped him. You're a machine, I get it.
Yeah. And you know what happens with machines? They become dated. That's why if you are a machine, you're a Windows Vista. And I've used that line before, too, because everybody knows it. Mundo's cut you off, and now Cueto's cut you off. We're sick of your shit, man. And I'm sick of you not knowing what a goddamn pinfall is. Because maybe if you did, you'd be a former world champion.
I almost feel bad for him. Maybe he's a machine in that he's also not even sentient, and he's just doing what his program tells him to do.
Pull the fucking plug.
Oh, God.
Because it's his goddamn fault. This team lost the match. Oh, maybe it's like Iron Giant or whatever that movie was that Robin Williams was a part of. And it can learn, and it can. I don't give a shit. Send it to the nearest goddamn scrap heap so it gets the fuck out of my life. Your fault, Cage. Your fault this team lost. Oh my god, my life. Why did this happen to me? That's my question for our subscribers. You don't even get the question this week, Ashton. Here's my question. Why does this keep happening to me? All I want to give you people, all I want to give everybody is that mark out for that world title win. But what does Cueto say instead? Oh, you get a trios title opportunity. How dare you? How dare you? And Cage comes in, right? And he does his thing. He slams and he breaks stuff like just the mindless freaking drone that he is. And it doesn't really last long, though, because El Dragon Azteca Jr., Rey Mysterio, and Prince Puma functioning as, what's that word? A team are able to kind of really, take it to him and hand him his ass. But really, in all seriousness, this is a really fun six-man tag. I mean, this might be... I mean, we haven't seen the finals yet or anything like that. We haven't even seen the last qualifying team. But as it stands, this is the best match of the tournament thus far.
Oh, my
this
God.
This is crazy. I mean, absolutely
this
crazy.
This is the third or fourth best match of the season so far, I'd say.
I would agree. I mean, here's the funny thing. WWE, though not recently, though, so I can't get down hard on them for that. But a running joke has always been, six-man tag main event. Or, we got all these guys in here, let's do a six-man tag. So even if they haven't done it recently, it doesn't change the fact that WWE has had a long history of phoning in six-man tag matches.
Yeah.
Some of them are good, some of them are, whatever.
I feel like the golden year, and I say year because it was basically only 1 year, but the golden year for six-man tag matches was the Shields run.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
And that was because they were a three-man team, so anytime there was a six-man tag that they were involved in, it was amazing.
Exactly. And the great thing about this match, too, besides the in-ring stuff, it told, to me anyway, two stories at once.
Yep.
Because the one story, obviously, is Mundo and Taya having issues with Cage, and that whole rivalry that, in all sincerity, I've been enjoying. Look, if anybody's ever caught me at my serious points talking about Cage, guy's an incredible athlete, has an amazing look. I still think he is the answer for Lucha Underground to Brock Lesnar in the WWE.
Dude,
if not a little bit better.
A freaking moonsault tonight.
Yeah. I mean,
a standing moonsault, like from the ground.
Exactly. I mean,
what are you?
And that is a very legitimate question.
Well, no, I shouldn't even ask it because he's a machine.
Yeah, I mean, he knows it.
Yeah, like if I ask him, he'd tell me loudly and obnoxiously every time.
So, yeah, I mean, nothing but, love and respect for Cage on that front, even though, again, it was entirely your fault. But then you get El Dragon Azteca Jr., Prince Puma, and Rey Mysterio, who share this history because Rey found Puma, or Conan and Rey did, as the story goes. And Rey's been training El Dragon Azteca Jr., so he has these bonds with both men. and then they come together and they're like, okay, all three of us, we're going to win this tournament. We're going to go on. We're going to do it all. Now, I still don't think that they're going to win the tournament, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be the number one contenders, but it makes sense that they'd win here. I know that we've seen the story before. Oh, teams that have a lot of discord between them or whatever, they come together for the grander cause and they win. It worked with Team Havoc. How can I put this? I think it worked with Team Havoc because their Discord had a likability to it. There's nothing really to like about the Discord here because it is more of a serious, more of a I want to hurt you, I want to inhibit your momentum in the temple kind of vibe. Right. Whereas there was always a comedic undercurrent with the Discord of Team Havoc.
And plus, I think that Team Havoc, all three of those people were really like hungry and really wanted to win the trios championships because they really didn't have anything to stand on. Like, they weren't put in a trio because Cueto wanted to make them into stars. They were put in a trio because Cueto wanted to screw with them, and he obviously he failed in that respect, but you know, the whole point wasn't I want to make you into a success. It was, you guys hate each other, you should team up. And then, like, behind closed doors, he's like, those losers. But they were all, like, trying to prove themselves. Like, he basically, I mean, even when he was talking to the crew, he referred to them as two losers and one girl with one leg.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Cueto very clearly had a disdain for these guys. Where I don't think he has any disdain towards Taya, Mundo, because again, Mundo assured Cueto, or he made Cueto know, hey, I look great in sunglasses with that whole thing. And Cage, I just think it was more amusement. Like, okay, did it once, let's do it again. And what resulted was a fantastic, again, main event. And the finishing sequence, especially.
Dude.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, man, I'm so torn because I know that Prince Puma is on a 3-year deal with Lucha Underground, and I feel like they got the most out of him in season 1, but I want them to give him so much more spotlight because he really is like my second or third, maybe even first, I don't know, but he's in my top 3 favorites in the temple. He's so good and amazing, and like, I'm torn because I want them to give him a lot more to do, and I want him to have more of a spotlight and kind of keep him strong in that main event scene. But I completely understand why they would want to pull down a little bit on him if he's going to be leaving after season 3. Right. But that being said, if he does leave after season 3, or really anytime soon, I think El Dragon Azteca Jr. is an amazing replacement for that exact role.
Oh my God. And see, we already have the story, and I did that because I completely agree with you. We already have the story of El Dragon Azteca Jr. growing as a performer because he's under Ray's tutelage. Yeah. And we're going to get to see this guy's growth, you know, from a character perspective and this and that, because in ring, this guy is, I mean, pardon my language here, fucking gangbusters.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Goes in there, lights everything up, and the biggest compliment I can give him, and I ain't even trying to be a smartass or anything like that, one of the best DDTs I've seen in years.
The Tornado DDT?
The Tornado DDT he does is the first time in years.
See, now, I just want to bring this up. Voice of the Voiceless on Twitter tweeted me 29 minutes ago, you better mention this move, and it was a link to the freaking El Dragon Azteca Jr. DDT. I didn't even need to mention it. John mentioned it.
Exactly.
And you didn't even know that this Voice of the Voiceless was wanting us to talk about it.
No,
that's how big of a deal it was.
Exactly, because this is the first time in years that with that DDT, I could believe it being a match ender. If you ever wanted to see the DDT build back up, meet El Dragon Azteca Jr. because he spikes that son of a bitch.
I want to know what his actual finisher is going to be. Like, I know you're saying like he could use that, but assuming that's not it, I do want to know what his finisher is.
I almost have to believe that it is, though, bro, and I only say that, and the only justification I give is the finishing sequence seemed like a triple finisher sequence, because Ray did the 619,
that's
Jr. did the DDT, and then Puma did the 630.
That is true. You made
so it very well point. Yeah, that very well may be the finisher, which, by the way, I mean, I made the groan about it, and I was in Johnny Mundo mode, you know, for live reactions, but cool, yet again, we do that rivalry. Puma pins Mundo yet again. And, like, he just seems to have Mundo's number. And in that feud, Prince Puma does seem to be better than Johnny Mundo. Again, that's not the mark saying it. That's just looking at the feud objectively. And it's just
Well,
great
dude,
stuff.
you
I
know
love
what
it.
though? No, I'm gonna stop you right there. I feel like you're getting too down on Mundo just because like he's your favorite and you want to come off as objective, even though you're realistically being too hard on him. He didn't lose because of Puma by himself. He lost because he ate 3 potential finishers, at least 2, and another
Yeah.
devastating move.
Oh my god! I mean, obviously that would put anybody away. I'm just glad that we get the call back to that feud. Is what I'm saying. Is like,
Well, I agree
yeah.
that we get the call back to that feud, and that's awesome. But just because he got pinned by Puma here after all 3 guys had their finisher on him, that doesn't mean Puma's better than him. How many
That
times
is,
has he beaten Puma?
yeah, that's, and he did pin him in Aztec Warfare after, Cage Weapon X on the floor. So yeah,
Right.
they've actually really done a great job protecting Mundo as well, even though Puma keeps pinning him because it's just these extraneous circumstances.
Yeah.
So great stuff there. And really though, before we move on from the match, I did promise Mundo something, and I want to fulfill that promise here because I finally did it. I wore my Johnny Mundo t-shirt during this match, my Caballero Guerrero t-shirt. It looks absolutely amazing. The illustration on it, he looks like Jesus. I loved it. I wish I could have worn it during a winning effort, but that's not Mundo's fault. That's Cage's fault, and believe me, I am not done ranting and raving yet, but this is not the platform I choose, but it'll come. It was a great, great t-shirt. I would recommend everybody check it out. It's on bottomlinemerch.com. Cheap plug there. My first piece of Mundo merch that I've ever owned, whether he was John Morrison or whatever, anywhere he's been, this is the first piece of merchandise of his that I've owned. Couldn't be happier with it. I freaking loved it, and I'm going to wear it for every match. I even changed out, because this isn't just any ordinary t-shirt. This is now one of my most valuable possessions. I'm only going to wear it when he competes, and it was absolutely amazing. So I love, love, love the t-shirt. And again, I'm only doing this because I promised him I would, so I just want to get that out of the way. Amazing matchup. He eats the pin after triple finishers, and Cage is still the absolute worst. So is there any concluding remarks you want about this match before we move on?
I don't think so, no. I mean, the match itself, like I already said, was amazing. Finishing sequence was crazy. I love the chemistry that Ray, El Dragon Azteca Jr., and Puma have with each other. And I also love that this kind of felt like 2 separate matches, You had on one side Johnny and Taya teaming up to take on, it felt like really just kind of individuals because they were kind of picking off members of the other team. And then you kind of had Cage just trying to handle all 3 of them by himself and for the most part failing.
Oh, and he, though, I mean, to Cage's credit, even though obviously 1 versus 3 guys is still 1 versus 3 guys, even if you don't feel yourself, you're a man, you're a machine. The best moment Cage had, though, was the fall away slam Samoan drop combo, where wasn't it El Dragon Azteca Jr. he caught, or was it Puma he caught while he had the other one in the Samoan drop position?
I think it was actually Ray.
Was it Ray that he caught? Because
I don't know. It might have been. Well, it doesn't really matter who it was. It's just the fact that he had somebody up in a freaking fireman's carry, and then someone else jumped and he caught them and into basically like a back body drop position, and he did a combination Samoan drop, back body drop like frickin' Elgin does all the time.
Yeah, I just felt like this is more impressive, though, because while he had the Samoan drop, he caught somebody in midair. And I'm just like, holy, so it's a great visual. And I remember also, I think he caught Puma in the air at one point for that suplex that he does. So Cage was on a tear in this thing. Really well done effort from all 6 individuals. Quality main event. And with that said, let's move on to our next segment. High spots and low shots. And I'm going to make my low shot the trios team of Cage, Mundo, and Taya. To Mundo and Taya, I am so sorry. I try and avoid this at all costs, but they really did have a hard night. They had a chance to advance in the tournament, and they just broke down, could not get the communication back up. And because of that, Mundo was left prone to 3 finishers, which did him in. They are out of the tournament, but because TWitWoW is a fan of those silver linings, that frees Mundo up and Cage as well, and Taya, to pursue Aztec Medallions if they so wish. So I'm going to keep my eyes very closely on that. But yes, this trios team is my low shot.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you there. Sadly, it's been a rough night for them. I'm going to say my low shot, though. Can't believe I'm doing this, but Mil Muertes.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, man, because look at what he's got to face next week.
That's right. Oh, and that does remind me, I got ahead of myself because...
Yeah, Post-credit scene.
Post-credit scene, we finally got it. I've been so used to them not having
Dario
one.
Cueto talking
Dario
to
Cueto.
Matanza through the cage.
Oh, man. And
This was freaking, like, emotional.
Yeah, it was.
This made Cueto look like a massive scumbag.
Yeah. He clearly, very manipulative. Matanza, I almost feel like, can I even say it? To me, anyway, gained a shred of humanity here when he poked his head out of the cage and just, the dynamic between these two was so on point.
Honestly, I'm surprised he can't bend the what are they called? Bars of the cage.
Yeah, and I brought up a similar point, if you remember,
because he was clearly trying to.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, he did seem to be, like, shaking him and stuff like that. I don't know if he was trying to or if he was just kind of rattling the cage, like, out of anger.
It looked to me like he was trying to pull him apart.
Yeah, I'm not sure. When we do our rewatch, I'll have to watch more here, because it just seemed to me like he was just clenching, like, out of anger, not really trying anything, but just exhibiting, like, grr, I'm mad.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was clearly angry, but it looked to me like if you could actually look at it, it's sort of the way that his arms were sort of positioned, it looked a lot to me like he was trying to pull the bars of the cage like apart from each other so that he could make like a hole in the cage.
Right. Gotta wonder what that cage is forged out of then, But really,
the steel is just really thick.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to. I mean, even just looking at the bar that he bent, that Joey Ryan was handcuffed to, that was so much thinner. And the joint that it was attached to the rest of the guardrail was a lot weaker than the cage bars.
Right. Just funny, though, because we still have to remember that, a god lives within Matanza's body. Yeah. So even Aztec gods, I guess, may have limits. Yeah. That said...
Well, I mean, I think it's safe to say, because he still flinches sometimes, even if he doesn't sell much.
That is true.
I mean, if he was completely untouchable, I can't imagine he would even flinch at all.
Right. But really the highlight of this cinematic was when Cueto actually reaches through and he's kind of like stroking the mask, kind of what people would perceive as a loving caress, but I think was definitely very manipulative. And just, I love you dearly, my brother. People don't understand the beauty of your violence. And
I love that he said that too, because that really does bring it all the way back to that another emotional scene when it was him and Black Lotus standing outside the new temple before they came back to the original temple, and he explained the story of how Matanza killed their mother, and he told her that was the first time he ever realized how much he loves violence.
Exactly.
Well, I think that now we got even more exposition on that, with him telling Matanza that nobody else understands how beautiful the violence you create is.
Exactly. So Matanza and his act against their mother was really, the moment that Dario Cueto, the spark that made him fall in love with violence. And, he says, you're the most valuable thing in the world to me. And what do we do with our valuables when we care about them? We lock them up. And that's his justification. And then he just leaves Matanza there to seethe and to rage. And now it makes all the sense in the world why Mil Muertes would be your low shot, because all that rage, all that emotional turmoil is going to be unleashed on Mil Muertes next week.
Yep.
Holy shit, yeah. So, with that said, let's resume this segment. My high spot, I guess I'll just keep it up. The trios team of El Dragon Azteca Jr., Prince Puma, and Rey Mysterio, because they advance. They won a quality main event tonight, and now they get to go to the triple threat finals to crown new number one contenders. We still don't know, though, who the third team is going to be, and even more than that, we don't know who the Disciples of Death are facing. We know they're one half of that match, but which team is going to stand up to them? Because I do believe the Disciples will lose to them, whoever that team is. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Rey, Puma, and El Dragon Azteca Jr. are my high spot.
Yeah, man. Oh, wow. Well, here's the thing. My high spot is Killshot.
Nice.
Did you know, John, that this is the first time Killshot has ever won a singles match in Lucha Underground?
Wow, no, I did not.
And it's only the fourth. It's only the fourth match, I believe, that he's ever won, period. And that's including dark matches.
Right.
In Lucha Underground. So,
wow.
And actually, you know what? This is only the second match he's ever won that's been on television, that's been televised. The only other match that he has ever won that was televised was with the family in the first round match last year against Pentagon, Sexy Star, and Superfly.
Right, that's right. So not only, I mean, this even adds, further stuff to our discussion, during Killshot's match with Argenis. New mask, got a dog tag again to reflect the background, and he gets the win. And so, I mean, that the best is yet to come, because now it seems like Killshot's really ready to take off. That is so cool. I love your high spot.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's amazing. All right, bro. Anything else you want to say about tonight's episode before we bring this thing home?
Let's see. You know what? I think now's the time. Let's close it out.
All right, guys. This has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What's your question for them this week?
Who's going to win next week?
Yeah, absolutely. Who's going to win next week?
Actually, you know what? I feel like that's a little bit too easy of a question, so I'm going to just make it a little bit more open-ended and creative. Who are the Disciples of Death's opponent going to be next week?
There you go. I like that one. Yeah, who is going to be the trio that, in my mind, is going to beat the Disciples of Death? Maybe we have some disagreements there. Maybe the Disciples of Death will get their act together and get the win. That remains to be seen. But who do you think the team's going to be, guys? Who is the opposition going to be for the Disciples of Death next week? Be sure to take the conversation over to Pweetov. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. Lucha Underground fans grow there by the week. You will be right at home. Also, be sure to check out the TWitWoW Facebook page. Like, share, and comment on the content on that. If Facebook altogether, though, isn't your medium of choice, TWitWoW is also on Reddit. On the TWitWoW subreddit, you will find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the TWitWoW subreddit community can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. But for the most intimate social media experience, you should follow both Ashton and myself on Twitter. I am at John_TwitWoW. That is JOHN_TwitWoW. Ashton is at apond404. That's the letter A. Pond, the body of water. POND 404. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where we will see the King of Strong Style, Shinsuke Nakamura, in action. Until then, tune in and peace out.